Hey guys, welcome back. Last week we went over how to calculate the Fibonacci retracement levels dynamically using R, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you two functions used to generate a backtest trading the fib levels. Now I'm going to be using daily data, and for this particular tutorial I've used the SPY. The way this is going to trade is we need to pass in our stock data, a profit target and a stop loss in percentage terms, a look back period to look for the Fibonacci retracement levels, and then of course our fib retracement levels. And by default it'll use these, but as you see in line 120 I've changed it up a bit. Now for the output, which is stored in all trades, it'll generate a trade log, so each row represents a different trade, and by default it's just going to be trading one instance at a time, so there's not going to be an overlap between the entry and the exit time. All of our entries will be at a certain fib level, and you can check what level that was in the second to last column here. Depending on your take profit and stop loss, it's going to look forward and check whether the take profit or stop loss was hit, and depending on that it's going to record the profit and the percentage return. For this particular backtest I use a 3% profit target and a 5% stop loss, so my column for percentage return will either be 3 or -5. Now if it's in the middle of a trade, as it currently is, it's just going to use the latest close price to generate the profit and percentage return, since it hasn't reached my take profit or stop loss zone. So if we were to trade one share at a time for this strategy and we sum all the profit, the total number of points it would have generated would have been 273, and you can convert this table into an XTS object and create a plot for the cumulative return. So if we take a look at that plot, this would have been our return. Now since this is only a long only strategy, it kind of suffers a bit in periods of drawdowns for the ETF, and this is just for backtesting purposes. I don't recommend you trading this strategy since it's going to perform badly in downturns. But let's take a look at the code in case you want to backtest your own stocks, and I'll show you how to use it. So we're going to start off by requiring these three packages, and we only have two functions. The first one will be to calculate the fib levels. So if you want to use anything other than these ratios, you would modify them in here, but this one is just for calculations since we have to pass in the high and the low to use as a range, and depending on that range we're just going to multiply them by our ratios here. So for whatever you pass in for the high and the low, you'll get a vector of prices for each of these ratios, and we're going to be using that function in our second wrapper here, which is the actual backtest. So as I mentioned, we need to pass in the stock data, which contains the open, high, low, close, your profit target and stop loss as a percentage, the look back period to look for the high and the low so that we can pass that information into our first function, and then of course your fib ratios. And the very first thing it's going to do is it's going to use the stock data. So here we're passing in the high and the low, and we're going to be using roll apply to look for the rolling high and the rolling low, giving your look back period. Next we're going to be subsetting our stock data so that it lines up with our rolling high and the rolling low, and we're going to extract the number of rows in our stock data, and it's going to enter a loop, and it's going to record the trades in a list, whether we're in a trade currently, the entry price, the entry time, and the entry fib level. And for each of the rows in our stock data, it's going to check to see if we've hit one of our fib levels. If it has, it's just going to record it, and it's just going to iterate to the next bar if we're currently in a trade until it finds our take profit or stop loss zone. Otherwise it's just going to scan until we hit one of our fib levels. And then lastly we're just going to add the latest data if it's currently in a trade. So everything is going to get added into our trades list, and then finally we're just going to row bind all of our results, and we're going to add the percentage return column. So from here we can go ahead and run these two functions. Now from here you can change the ticker that you want to backtest, but we'll leave it as is, and any parameters for the backtest. So we'll do a 2% profit target, and we'll leave the stop loss at 5%, but we'll change the look back period to something short like 3, and we'll go ahead and run these two lines, and then we can go ahead and output and chart it. So if we were to trade this, it would have generated 278 points, and let's take a look at the plot. So as I mentioned, the strategy works well when the stock is in an uptrend, but it performs pretty bad in periods of corrections. But you can go ahead and test your own stocks and see if they perform any better. And with that guys, this concludes the video. I hope this was useful information. I'll leave a link down in the description area to my Patreon where you can find the script. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.